It was considered to be good luck. What about these then? Chu asked, pointing to the 2 pawns in a row. From the position they seem to be along the main thoroughfare, Maomao said. Maybe they represent a bookstore or a stationery shop, you know, somewhere you'd go to buy little things. Not sure I remember any place like that, Lehaku muttered. Piece by piece Maomao tried to figure out what the shogi tiles represented. Then Chu said, Miss Chu has a thought. Maybe a current map can't help us. She was right. In 17 years shops could come and go. Some businesses collapse while other new enterprises begin. If you'll pardon me, I can go get an old map. Please look after my granduncle for a moment, Small Lin said, getting to his feet. Big Lin was still sleeping. I'll go call the Moon Prince then. Lady Maomao, if you would look after Master Lakan, please, Onsu said, also standing. Look after Big Lin, got it, Maomao said. No. I need you to keep an eye on Master Lakan. Onsu was distraught but left anyway. Maomao and the others were lost in comparing the shogi board to the modern map. The comparisons were going very well, so well that they all missed something crucial. Chapter 4 Small Lin. Maomao surveyed the map, which was now covered in writing. I think we filled in most of the places we're sure about. They had divined the significance of about half of the pieces, and what they saw conveyed how much the town had changed. The Moon Prince has a visitor and can't join us. He is with Vice Minister Liu from the Board of Rights, Onsu informed them when he returned. His tardiness seemed to be explained by the thick book clutched under his arm. Presumably it belonged to the freak strategist. Vice Minister. Maomao wasn't especially well versed in formal titles. She vaguely remembered this one having appeared on the court lady service exam, but she'd forgotten what exactly the position entailed. She thought she recognized the name as one doctor you had mentioned. He is basically the second most important person on the Board of Rights, Chu whispered in Maomao's ear. Any ceremonial functions the Moon Prince might perform here will need somebody important like that. I see. She did not know what business might have brought Vice Minister Liu to visit Jinshi, but she figured they could manage this without him. Man, what is keeping that guy? Lehaku asked, looking out past the mosquito netting at the setting sun. It has been more than half an hour already. I knew I should have gone with him. You are not wrong. Small Lin is just a visitor. With the way he looks, I will bet one of the guards stopped him, Chu said. She and Lehaku were known around the mansion, and nobody gave them any problems. But if Small Lin had left the premises, maybe I should have gone instead, Maomao said, but she soon realized she was wrong. Fwire, yawned the monocled old fart, finally waking from his alcohol-induced slumber. Good morning. Oh, I must still be dreaming. I can see Maomao. Onsu offered his torpid master a wake-up drink. It was his beloved juice, presumably. That is Maomao. Here we go. Oops. Had she said that out loud? She wished she could just ignore the strategist, but then they would never learn what they needed to know. Instead, she made a row of snack trays between the two of them. You are not allowed to go beyond this line, she said. Wow. That's like something my big sister Mame would come up with. She must have done something similar with Chu's father-in-law, Gaeshun. Maomao had the shogi board placed in front of the freak. I have no idea whether to expect an answer from you, but I'm going to ask. Specifically, my question concerns the Western capital 17 years ago. If this is the Yi clan mansion, and this building diagonally down from it is Master Jyakuan's residence, do you know what the other pieces would signify? I thought not. Thanks anyway. The old fart hasn't answered yet, Lehaku said. He did not hesitate to use the name right in front of the old fart. However, the old fart seemed unperturbed. Indeed, the fox-like gleam in his eyes grew even sharper. He reached toward the board with hands that bore the distinctive calluses of a shogi player. This pawn here would be the shogi dojo. The one underneath it there was a store that sold shogi and go supplies. Master Lakan has a steel trap memory for things that happen to interest him, Onsu explained helpfully. Is that so? Maomao replied, as uninterested as could be. This dragon is a restaurant. If you could beat the owner at a game of shogi, your meal was free. But after 3 free meals, they cut me off. The strategist was downright voluble now. It was beginning to become clear that the places Big Lin had indicated were mostly related somehow to shogi. Maomao couldn't help thinking if only this guy had his act together. This night I'm not sure about. This promoted gold too. Those 2 locations alone seem to elude the strategist. One of them seems to be a shrine. The other is somewhere in the residential district, so maybe it is where the game records were first found, Chu said, circling the locations on the map. I guess that makes the shrine the only other suspicious place then, Lehaku said. Just when it felt like they were finally about to figure out some answers, the strategist started looking around, his eyes sweeping the room. "What's the matter, sir?" Onsu asked. "Where's Small Lin?" the strategist demanded. "He went to fetch an old map." HRM, how unusual for the strategist to show any interest in another person. I might have expected him to ask about Big Lin maybe, but Small Lin, Maomao thought. Then she repeated to herself, "Small Lin." She smacked the shogi board, causing everyone to look at her in surprise. "What's wrong?" Lihaku asked. Maomao jumped to her feet and scowled at the freak strategist. There were those in the world who possessed rare talent, but let it go to waste. "The small of Small Lin," she said, her gaze still fixed squarely on the freak. "May I take it that it means bad? Is that why you call him that?" "Well, yes, Maomao, I don't really know the difference between good people and bad. He just strikes me as a liar." Maomao, still frowning, sat back down. "Why didn't you say that?" "Well, what's it got to do with me?" Ah, yes, there was the strategist she knew. Everyone else in the room sat in stunned silence. Then a hesitant voice came from the entrance. "Ahem, pardon me for interrupting when you're in conference." Judging by his uniform, the newcomer was one of the freak strategist's subordinates. "Yes, what is it?" asked not the freak but Onsu. "There seems to be someone at the administrative office who claims to be looking for a missing member of their family." The soldier stole a glance at Big Lin, who was still sleeping in a corner of the room. His description matches that of an old man dragged here by Master Lacan. Yesterday the silence grew even more stunned, and then another soldier appeared at the door. "Master Lacan, there has been a fire at the West Shrine. I have already dispatched a firefighting squad to take care of it." The freak's subordinates really were all highly capable people. They did not even need their boss to tell them what was appropriate and necessary. The missing family member was Big Lin. The burning shrine was the one they had just concluded would be worth investigating. It was almost satisfying, in its own perverse way, to have been so thoroughly played. Nobody knew who had set these events in motion. At the moment, all they knew was that whoever it was, they seemed to be 2 steps ahead. They relocated their conference to Jinchi's chambers, where the 3 of them, Maomao, Chu and Lihaku, now knelt meekly. They had thought the freak strategist might follow them, but Big Lin had woken up from his nap, so the shogi game had resumed. "I can only offer my humblest apologies," Maomao said. She and the others had their heads pressed to the ground in abject apology, and Chu was even dressed in a white robe, as if prepared to disembowel herself at any moment. Chu." "There will be no need for that," Jinchi said. Chu promptly changed back with evident relief. In short, Small Lin didn't exist. There was a man who claimed to be a relative of Big Lin, but he was a different person. He didn't look all that much like Small Lin. Small Lin kidnapped Big Lin during the insect swarm. Then he took advantage of the fact that Big Lin isn't coherent. He posed as a relative to try to get close to the freak strategist. He certainly pulled the wool over Maomao's eyes, and everyone else's eyes. He was such a diligent caretaker to Big Lin that he looked like he'd been doing it for a long time. What was worse, he seemed to be aware of the strategist's ability to see through lies. He knew that as long as the old fart had a worthy opponent to play shogi with, he would focus on that instead of on Small Lin's deception. If he hadn't known about the special qualities that creature possessed, then he had been extraordinarily lucky. And if he had known, then he was a master tactician himself. Big Lin was now with his real family. The man who had come asking after him was with a young woman. She might have been his wife or daughter, and she was Big Lin's actual nurse. Maomao and the others were glad to discover that Big Lin hadn't been abused and abandoned, as Small Lin had described. However, judging by the visitor's clothing, the family had indeed fallen on hard times. They were with Big Lin now, watching him play shogi. Maomao was frustrated. She knew having the freak strategist around would only lead them off topic. She intended to explain the situation to Jinchi thoroughly and completely, and then bring in the strategist to get his story. If the old man had just told them, she thought, but there was no predicting what he'd do. She wasn't even sure what had tipped him off that Small Lin was a villain. He had done a superb job of looking completely harmless, taking such convincing care of Big Lin. Does he truly have nursing experience? Otherwise it would be difficult to explain how he deceived them all so completely. If it was a performance, it was a very good one. Even Chu had been taken in, which Maomao wouldn't have expected, even if someone managed to trick herself and Lihaku. "He even fooled you, Chu?" Jinchi asked. "Yes, and I am so embarrassed. In my family home, a little beating wouldn't be enough to make up for a screw-up like this." She mimed copious weeping. Is Chu's family that ruthless? Maomao wondered. She had assumed it must have been a very laissez-faire place to produce a free spirit like Chu, but that was all, it had been an assumption. What's done is done, Jinchi said. But please describe this person to me. You didn't see him, Master Jinchi, Maomao asked, only a glimpse of his face. I had a visitor and had to come straight back to my room. Fair enough, the Emperor's younger brother wouldn't normally stand around and chat with a random commoner, but you are done entertaining now, sir. Yes. When I mentioned that Sir Lacan was about, the man looked slightly ill and went home. Apparently Sir Lacan and Vice Minister Lu do not entirely get along. The Vice Minister was advising me on what we should do about the ceremonies we had planned for this visit. Is there anyone who does get along with the old fart, who really knew how to cope with the monocled freak? I want to know everything about this man. How he acted, what he was like, Jinchi said, not to Maomao but to Chu. Yes, sir. He was a completely and totally normal man. His facial features suggested a hint of foreign blood, but otherwise he had no distinguishing characteristics at all. Maybe it would help if I described him as being a lot like Lahan's brother. Ah, Maomao thought that actually made sense. No wonder this guy had been able to blend in so readily. He wasn't given to outbursts like Lahan's brother was, but he shared the other man's ability to just go about his business, never really standing out. And they had the exact same quality of being put upon. One thing about them really stands out, Maomao said. Oh yes, for sure, Chu said. Then they chorused the way you can't seem to remember their faces. I will try though, Chu said. I'll see if I can do a likeness. She immediately produced a brush and started painting, and soon had a portrait that captured Small Lin's most noticeable characteristic, which was having no real salient characteristics. Maomao assumed the portrait would be shown to Big Lin's family. All right. And what kind of man do you think he was? You can give me your personal opinions, I'll take anything. This time Jinchi's gaze took in Maomao and Lahaku as well. If I may then, sir, Lahaku said, I mostly agree with Miss Chu. This guy was totally ordinary, but he also seemed to really know what he was doing with Big Lin. He was accustomed to his role, you mean? Was his performance really that good? It was more than that. It's like I'm not sure most people would know how to work that well with an old guy. It is not often that people think of men taking care of their elderly relatives, is it? Usually it is their wife or sister. Maomao nodded. In Li, men stood above women in the social hierarchy. This seemed even stronger here in Isei province, where women or brides were frequently viewed as nothing more than tools. Consider the fact that it wasn't the man who came looking for Big Lin who was caring for him, but the woman he brought with him. And what do you think, Maomao? I agree with the others. However, if he has indeed been searching for Big Lin's old letters and papers the way we are, then I think we can assume he has been doing it far longer than we have. Either Small Lin himself, or perhaps a compatriot, had been staking out Big Lin. Yes, that would be reasonable, said Jinchi. He didn't seem to be actively searching for the cash so much as keeping watch to see if anyone else would find it. It seemed like a very roundabout way to get what he claimed he wanted. If nobody found the papers, that was fine. Small Lin simply did not want them discovered. Do you think it's safe to assume there was something so damaging in those materials that he wanted to eliminate them, even if it carried a considerable risk? Maomao asked, to the point of deliberately making contact with Sir Lacan. When you cannot predict what someone is going to do when they finally do act, it can be earth-shattering. Ah, Jinchi nodded quickly. Lacan did have a gift for jinxing things, so whatever it is he does not want it to be found. Secret accounts maybe. No, wait. What would that have to do with the compiling of a history? I wonder what could be worth that kind of risk, Lahaku said. Maybe it has to do with the Yi Rebellion, Chu suggested. If he does not want it to be found, then I think it is safe to figure that whatever is in there is not something he wants to know, but something he already knows, said Maomao. If he went out of his way to burn the library, it must really be something he does not want getting out. Maomao found herself pondering why Small Lin might have deliberately set fire to the books. Hadn't he considered the possibility that the destruction might not be complete if Maomao and the others came right away? What if he only pretended to burn them? If the books were burned, their pursuers might give up. But they might also try desperately to decode any remaining fragments of text. There were no guarantees that fire would consume everything after all. What if he only absconded with what he needed? What was it that Small Lin needed then? Maomao thought about it so hard that her head started to spin. Her thoughts were interrupted when the door flew open. Maomao, I won. Yeah, great. If only he'd warned them about Small Lin like a normal person would have. But no, it was no use being angry. The freak strategist had told her that he hadn't said anything about Small Lin being a bad guy because no one had asked him. Well, she would try asking him a few things then. How did you know that man was a charlatan? Because watching him was like watching an interesting play. Maomao stopped. No, she still had no idea what anything he said meant. What would Lacan know about watching a play? The performers would all look like ghost stones to him. Everyone on the stage is lying, but some of the performers are better at it than others. The more natural the falsehoods are, the more interesting the play is, the strategist said. The more natural, the more interesting it made a certain kind of sense to her. A play was something fundamentally untrue, and the actors were people who specialized in delivering these untruths to the audience. The better liars they were, the better performers they made, and the more engaging the drama was. The idea that someone might be a liar and a villain because watching them gave the sense of watching a good stage play was the sort of conclusion only the freak strategist could have come up with. Ah, yeah, that sort of makes sense, Chu said as it clicked for her. Maybe it made sense because she, like the strategist, lived by her intuition. Does it? Maybe you could explain it to me, Maomao said. Yes, of course, Miss Chu's explanation is coming. This was someone who wasn't playing a part, they had become that part. You see it sometimes among con artists and spies. Spies? Oh yes, some agents even marry a local so that they won't be suspected when they enter another country. But that spouse sees them every single day. The spy has to be a true husband or wife to them. They can't just act like it, they have to be it. The only thing is that something is more important to them than their partner. Some spies might even have kids. As long as no one finds out what they are, their family will never know the difference. Talk about ignorance being bliss. Chu's description was awfully full of concrete details, though. It almost seemed to suggest no. In any case, the point was that Small Lin had, for all intents and purposes, become a real member of Big Lin's family. Say, Maomao, why don't we have dinner together? The freak strategist said. He still looked relaxed and very pleased with himself, totally oblivious to the mood in the room. From behind him, Big Lin's real relative was watching them. He did indeed look like he was living a hard life. Almost everything Small Lin had told them appeared to be the truth, except for his own identity. Onsu gave the man some money on behalf of his master. Then he said to the strategist, Master Lacan, "You already have a dinner engagement with Master Jiakuo, and we need to spend the time until then getting through some work." Yes, this man was indeed a hard worker. "Or I don't wanna," the old fart moaned, pathetic. He wrapped himself around a post and refused to move as Onsu tried to drag him away. Children throwing tantrums comported themselves with more dignity. "Miss Maomao, a word from you would be helpful here. Tell him have fun, or something." "I don't want to, Miss Chu. Would you rather he stay here, Miss Maomao?" Maomao scowled and managed to choke out "have fun" in the quietest possible voice. The strategist's face lit up. I will have fun." Maomao watched Onsu begin to lead him away. "Just one more question," she said before he was out of earshot. "Yes, what is it? You can ask your daddy anything." She really wanted to smash that monocle, but she forced herself to ignore the urge. "How does Master Jiakuo look to you?" She felt like the answer to this one question held the key to everything. Even Jinchi swallowed heavily, wondering what the strategist would say. But what he said was Jiakuo. "Who's that? The man you're having dinner with tonight? The one who keeps you swimming in fruit juice?" Maomao said. "Oh, him," the freak said, clapping his hands. "I think he must have wanted to be an actor. He seems like he's smack on his way to becoming a hero." Huh, Maomao started to feel like she was wasting her time with this line of questioning. A hero in this case was a male stage role, usually a warrior or sometimes a chivalrous gambler. Maomao only found herself with even more questions than before. She started to feel the mental equivalent of indigestion. It didn't help when Chu said, "Miss Maomao, maybe it's about time you let yourself get a little closer to Master Lacan. You would know it was all calculated, but you could be a little nicer. I think the moment either of us got any closer than we already are, he'd never leave me alone, and then neither of us would get any work done. Is that what you want?" "Oh, yes, your point is taken." Chu clapped her hands, but it looked like an act. Maomao could only give the light-hearted lady-in-waiting a scowl nearly as grim as the one she'd fixed on the strategist. Chapter 5. A brother's return. It had been 10 days since the first wave of the insect plague when a dark shadow appeared in the sky again. So they're back. Maomao had just returned from checking on the girl on whom she'd performed surgery. The child was stable, but this new swarm couldn't have come at a worse time for her. Maomao hurried back to the annex and locked the medical office. People at the estate had already received word by messenger that what appeared to be a grasshopper swarm had been spotted. They were more ready than they had been the last time. Heek, bugs again, moaned the quack doctor, who was curled up in a corner. Maomao tossed a jacket at him. Master physician, those bugs won't wait for us. You need to get ready. What will we do? For starters, you should put on thick clothing that will survive some gnawing, then lock every window you can lock. After that, I want you to plug any gaps in our building with mud or clay to keep the grasshoppers from getting in that way. Maomao pointed outside. There was no time. This was so urgent that they would need even the quack doctor to be on the alert. Mud? Are you sure we should be getting this nice house dirty? I have plenty of oil paper.